You're not sharing the PowerPoint.
No, I am sharing the PowerPoint. I'm just.
Oh, okay. Yes, I'm ready. Let's go. Woohoo! All right, so tonight's lesson is on relationship, and many of you have seen that video before, and it's a really beautiful video about what? Help me describe it.
I just remember that I love it.
Yeah, I love it too. I'm so sad that we can't share it.
A man who makes a jillion paper airplanes.
Yeah. And why does he?
Probably lost his job.
He probably did lose his job. Why did he make all those airplanes?
He was trying to send a love letter to someone, if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong, but
So something like that. Yeah.
some
And then what
sort
ends
of
up happening?
message.
Paper airplanes crashing across town.
Basically, this paper airplanes drag him across town. Yeah, so every time someone chats, I think it puts this big gray screen up. So if you're able to not chat during this lesson, then that would be great. And I won't have this big gray screen right on my
No,
PowerPoint.
it's okay. I can move the box. I can move the box. You can still answer. Can you see this okay?
I can see it okay. Absolutely. All right, relationship MK style, here we go. The question when we think about MKs and relationship is, where are you rooted? What do you think the picture on the left and right are sort of asking you? Where are you rooted when it comes to relationships? When people ask you that question, that is your favorite question of all time, where are you from? What do you typically say?
Texas.
Texas, California. What else?
It's complicated.
It's complicated.
I say that too. California, but not really.
California, but not really.
Texas.
Texas.
I will explain. No, there's too much. I will sum up.
Yes.
Vincini is
Right.
back. It's a hard question because relationships, for a lot of us, we find ourselves rooted either in geography or with people. And oftentimes what's really hard for us to answer that question as an MK, because from a monocultural perspective, people are asking you where you're from and they expect a geographical answer. But for most MKs, where they're from is, where their home is considered to be. And where is your home? What's that old saying? My home is where the what is?
Home is where the heart is.
Thank you, Creed. Home is where the heart is. And so I'm rooted where my heart is. And for most MKs, their hearts are typically found where their friendships are, where people are. And it's a lot harder for people to find that that rootedness. If you've traveled a lot, which a lot of TCKs have, a lot of MKs here have, it's a lot harder to find that rootedness in your geography because you've been to so much geography. You've been all over the place. The other reason it's a little interesting, this is being recorded, by the way, and so I don't know, but when these gray screens pop up, I don't know what impact that has on the recording. So anyway, the other thing that happens is, when your heart is locked into relationship, and that tends to be where you find your roots, then when you're very mobile and transient, that can be really challenging. But it does help us understand a little bit about how MKs typically tend to negotiate relationships better. When I'm not rooted in geography, then that question is really, really hard to answer. But we don't ever hear anybody answering the question from a heart level. Where are you from? I'm from, well, this list of my 5 best friends. People don't say that. And so it's a challenging thing to negotiate. And yet that can be how we feel. And home can very much often feel like a place that is hard to define. And so what we're going to talk about tonight is how our hearts get rooted, how our sense of identity can often sometimes get rooted in our relationships. So we're going to talk about the levels of relationship. The first level of relationship is the superficial level. Can you give me an example of what the superficial level might mean? At the bottom of your screen, you might have sort of, like I tried to use this cliff jumping analogy here to kind of explain this a little bit. What's level one, superficial level? What kind of things are talked about?
The weather.
The weather, absolutely. What else?
How are you?
How are you? Stuff, you know, just really, you know, one of my favorite questions to ask MKs, because no MK really likes to answer this question in a normal way. They often like to answer it in the most hilarious, funny way in the world. And you guys will know exactly what this question is as soon as I ask it. What's up? The ceiling, the sky, anything that's directly above me is what is up. I'm a literalist and I can't answer anything that's metaphorical. Yes, I know. I've worked with MKs for so long that I get it. But that's a very superficial question.
Yeah.
What's up? How's it going? Level one. And it's sort of like you're looking at the water, but do these guys really look to you like they have any intention of getting in the water? They're just kind of chilling, you know? They're like, let's check it out. Let's see what's going on here. And I don't know. I'd like to know who you bet from that group is going to jump in. You know, you look at one guy and he's like, I don't know, looks pretty high. Let's go back and hang out lower than this. Superficial level is, I have not made any commitments yet. But now we go to the second stage. And the second stage, level two, still safe. This guy maybe doesn't look as safe as I should have designed. But this picture got me giggling for so long that I just had to put it in there. I hope you get a kick out of it too. So this is our still safe level. So now we've moved past the superficial level. We've gotten past the amazing revelation of the sky or the ceiling being what's above you. We are now moving. We're making headway here. And what are the kinds of questions that you might discuss in still safe stage 2 relationship level?
Did you see the Cowboys game yesterday?
Yes. Did you see the Cowboys game yesterday? And that is a very safe question, depending on how the Cowboys did. But yes, that is right, Creed. Also, I don't know how many of you know this, but Dak Prescott just signed a 4-year contract. And I got that notification tonight. I wasn't distracted by it. I did not read the article during MK, but I do know that he was paid $160 million for 4 years, and that's pretty awesome. Anyway, still safe level is exactly that kind of conversation. You're talking about sports, you're talking about just stuff that really doesn't matter that much. What are some other kinds of questions you might talk about in the still safe level? I mean, people can get passionate and excited about sports, but you're probably not going to, unless it's like soccer, going to start a riot or something. You know, no one's going to die. We're just talking about something that we can all kind of, and for you, it may not be sports, but typically in this level, you're just talking about something like, what would that be for you? That's sort of like a game. Like, I don't know, I hear people talk about games or books, like a book club. There you go. You're just talking about like general knowledge. You know, you might talk about school, but not like just event type stuff.
Movies?
Yeah, what's your favorite flavor of ice cream? Movies is a good one. Are you guys doing anything for spring break? These are the kinds of questions, you know, you might have a lot with your schoolmates that, you know, you're just kind of, you know, you see them in class and, hey, what do you got? Or, you know, your teacher might try and start this kind of a conversation in class.
Fades away and dies.
Yeah,
think
that's
it's
such a, okay, I don't know if you can hear Eva, but she's saying some really good stuff here. She said it usually fades away and dies.
Because the teachers are like all trying to talk with the kids and like be cool, and the kids are like, "What are you doing?"
Can you hear any of that? Okay, so you can sort of.
It's like when the teachers try and talk to you and get a conversation and then it just like fades away because they're all like trying to be cool and the kids are like, what are you doing here?
So you're still safe. This guy, because he has the most incredible balance, is still safe. He has not jumped yet. He actually could, if he really wanted to, probably turn around, unless he had a friend like JT who was going to throw something at him and knock him off that stick. But he doesn't, so he's still safe. And here you are. The next level is judgmental level. This is Rose's favorite level because she talked about this tonight, and she's a big fan of the judgmental level. Here's the guy, right? He's jumped. He's going. There is no coming, unless that guy is Superman, he is not coming back up. He has left the safety. He is ready to do what? What is judgmental level? What are the kinds of conversations that you have when you've reached judgmental level?
Politics.
Yeah, probably.
Tamales.
Yeah, tamales. Yeah, politics is probably a good one. What else?
Arguments and debate.
Arguments and debate.
The
You know,
Cowboys season.
you mentioned a few already in your conversation. Theology or LGBTQ plus controversial stuff. This level is where we start letting people know what we think about certain things, what we think, and that's the important thing here. Now I'm starting to give my opinion. And why is this, in our society, not everyone here is a Facebook, Instagram hero, but this is where you see a lot of, the judgmental level comes across a lot on social media.
Sure.
This is where people feel the freedom, whether they should or shouldn't, to just kind of share exactly what they think and feel. Think. Judgmental level is mostly what I think about something. So this is just a point for you guys to remember. All of your social media stuff that you post is going to be under a lot of scrutiny when you try and get a job somewhere. People look at this stuff. So you can post a lot about what you think if you want to on social media. And I don't know that this is even the right crowd to even talk about this with, because I don't know how many of you do that. But I will warn you that stuff, if you post it, it's going to be there when people are looking you up. If you want to be a part of ministry, or any kind of high level job, people are going to look at what are the kinds of things that you think? And the way that they get to know that often before they meet you is they go and check out your posts, your feeds. And if you let them, if they're public, then anyone can see them. Anyway, just an FYI. You probably already knew that, but it's something to consider and to really take seriously. Because I can post a lot of ridiculous stuff, and I need to be careful about that because I can just get really silly sometimes. All right, the next level is level 4. It's your emotional level. Emotional level, you have two people jumping together. That is as emotional as I can get here in this picture. I didn't know how to show people jumping emotionally. So they're doing flips, which is really cool. It's true. But this guy was also doing, anyway, it doesn't matter. I don't have time to talk about the pictures as much as I am. Anyway, but I did work a lot harder on this one than some of them. So I'm really proud of these pictures. Okay, emotional level. What do you think the emotional level, okay, we missed the picture of the baby. That's so cool.
What? It's a picture.
No,
of
yeah, isn't that great? It's just
Ah.
worth looking at. We already talked about it. We let people know what we really think about stuff. Look at those eyes, man. I just get a kick out of that. All right. Why is it called the emotional level? If the judgmental level is what I think, what do you think the emotional level is? What I'm willing to share with people.
How I feel.
And why is this a stage down? Why do you think it's more intense to share with people what you feel than what you think?
Easier to get thrown back at you.
Okay,
More intimate.
it's more intimate. Yeah. When what we say starts affecting what other people feel, sure. I'm letting you know what I feel. I'm opening up a deeper part of myself to you than most people. We can talk about facts. We can talk about what I think about all kinds of stuff. And that's where I think the next level see, the initial post can often just be what someone thinks. But if you read all the comments to that post, typically what starts happening is you get a lot more about how people feel about that post. That's not across the board. People post a lot of stuff on the emotional level too. But typically what I have noticed is if you're on Facebook or anything like that, the comments is the emotional response typically to what people think. So we're opening it up here. Let's go to the next slide. We share how we feel. I feel sad, worried, depressed. I feel lonely every single day of my life, but I'm ashamed to admit that to the people who love me. Do you have people in your life that you feel like you have reached level 4 with? People in your life that know how you feel. A lot of people in this culture find it very easy to get basically to about stage 3. But not a lot of people are able, for a lot of different reasons, to get to stage 4, which is sharing what we feel about things. Not a lot of people are really willing to ask. In some ways, this is shifting over time. But the question I would ask myself if I were you sitting there tonight is, do I have people who I can share how I feel about things? And I'm talking about important things, really important things, who are safe people, who will listen to me. Because some of these things, like when we talk about like unresolved grief, a big part of that is because people don't have these stage 4 relationships built. And they don't have people who can help them process through what they're feeling. And that's really hard. Sometimes we need people to hear how we're feeling so that they can help us process it a little bit. And I'm not going to process how I'm feeling with you if I feel completely judged and shut down and like you are just not interested. I don't know if any of you have ever been venting to someone and they started trying to fix you and they started judging your emotional response to something instead of just listening. But I've had that happen to me, and when that happens to me, it shuts me down so fast. I also have people in my life that I feel very safe sharing my feelings about stuff, but I'm a verbal processor. It's really, really hard for me to do this. And if you're a verbal processor, I bet it's hard for you as well. It's really, really hard for me to even start processing and unearthing a lot of my stuff, my grief, my feelings and emotions, unless I have someone that I can share these things with. So consider that. The final level is the level 5 full disclosure level, where we are, you know, I hope that you have people on this level in your life, but it's just like they know everything about you. Basically, if they wanted to, they could ruin whatever career you wanted to have because they have that picture of that time that you wore that thing and said that whatever and posted that what, you know, all the junk in your life. They know and they love you anyway. And you know all this stuff in their life, which is why they don't share the stuff in your life, and they love you, and it's back and forth, and it's awesome. And this is kind of the sweet spot, I think, often when we think about relationship is, can I get to a place where I can just be known? You know, this, if I'm being completely honest, is the level of relationship that my heart longs for every single one of you to have with God. The Bible talks so often about being known by him. And we talk about knowing him. But the Bible talks about being known by him. And being known by him is knowing that you're here with him at this level. Level 5, God knows everything. He doesn't, and that transcends the, well, God is omniscient, Caleb, don't you know? Yes, I know. I know he knows everything. But there is a level of relationship where you just kind of, people know everything about you. They know the very private things, your failures. They also know your dreams. Sometimes we're afraid to share our dreams with people because we're afraid they're going to judge our dreams. And many of us can relate to being afraid to share our failures. But this is the kind of relationship where you start to develop that best friends for life kind of stuff. These are really hard relationships then for MKs when you've begun developing these, when they get ripped away. And I know so many MKs who they got here once and then some awful, horrible transition happened. and this was just like cut off. And it did so much damage that they have not known how to get back here. And if that is you, for whatever reason, I want to hear your story. Not right now, not in front of everybody. But I want you to know, like, there's a way through this. It is really, really hard to have a best friend ripped away because of transition or any other reason. And it is really, really hard to have a heart that says, I'm going to keep pressing. I'm going to keep moving forward. But God designed us for this kind of relationship, not only with himself, but with each other. Don't give up on this. So the next question is, how do you move through the stages? How do you typically move through these stages? And normally I would do a lot more like small group stuff. I'm doing a little bit more teachy stuff tonight because we're a little shorter on time. So I encourage you, if I ask a question, to be quick to kind of voice what your thoughts are, because I not only think it'll be helpful for whoever gets to watch these recordings, but I'm not going to wait around very long. I want to get to the end here too. So how do you move through the stages in your own life? I'd love to hear from a few people.
I feel like it can happen naturally as long as you keep putting effort into the relationship and the other person also puts effort into the relationship. Then it builds on itself and you go from level to level.
Yeah, that's good. How quickly do you feel like you get from one stage to the next? How long does it take you typically, and how many people exist in each stage? I'm just curious.
I don't know why, but I somehow burst through like the first 3, and then 4 and 5 come through very naturally after that.
So Creed is saying that he gets very quickly to 3, and then right after that, 4 and 5 come pretty naturally. Doesn't want.
Depends on the kind of person for me.
And Eva says it depends on the kind of person for her.
I think it does depend on the kind of person, because I've had one person where it took 6 years and another person it took 1.5 years, which are very different times.
Yeah.
Or even a week.
And the interesting thing for me is it does depend on what kind of person, but sometimes the more similar the person is to me, the longer it takes, because I'm
Yes.
afraid of ruining that if I go too far into 3, 4, or 5.
That's
Whereas
interesting.
where I already know I have a disagreement and we've gotten through it, I can sometimes revel in getting into 3. Although 4 and 5 might come hard.
That makes sense. I like that. Nice.
I feel
Well,
like,
I would suggest, oh, so yeah, go ahead, Joe.
yeah, sorry, I was just gonna say that I feel like a lot of times I will jump to a 5 when the other person's not ready yet. Like I'm like, okay, let's get this going, and they're not, like, we're not actually to that stage in the relationship yet, but I'm like so ready for that golden stage that I just rush there, and neither of us is actually ready for it.
I love it. Thanks for sharing that. That's perfect. That leads right into the next slide, which is asking this question: why do most MKs move through the stages quickly?
Ooh.
What do you think contributes to that? All right,
We
Eva,
have
I want
the
you to
same answer to this question.
come up close so they can hear you. I'm tired of repeating your beautiful words.
I feel like I always think of this, but because well, oh my gosh, okay, because we know we're gonna have to leave. Wait, I'm looking at the wrong screen. Yeah, we know we're gonna have to leave, so we're like let's get this because we might have to leave and we don't know when. So let's be friends now and fast. We don't have time for the long, awkward stuff.
Yeah, that's really good. Absolutely.
Nobody asked why I'm wearing sunglasses.
Yeah, that's judgmental level. We're not there yet, guys. Please. Anyway.
Oh, it's fine. Y'all can judge. I don't care. I would judge.
What else? Why else do you think MKs move through the stages quickly? Urgency. That's what that sounds like. We don't know how long we have.
I feel like
I think
another
for me something, I'm sorry.
you go. That's fine.
Okay, thank you.
something that I noticed that I was like uncomfortable with, but it was just a habit because one, that's how I process things. I don't like telling like half truths or like easy explanations, which is why it's so hard to say where am I from, because I don't like to just say the expected answer. I feel like I have to explain. I often felt like I was forced to jump ahead multiple stages. I would just be visiting a church and someone would say something like, aren't you so happy to be in the US? And that would kind of spark this thing where I could go, I could say no, or I could explain, or I could just say yes. But if I say no, I have to explain why. And suddenly I would be opening up to this person that maybe didn't want to hear it, but I didn't know what else to say other than explaining, well, we had to go through this and this, or they'd say, why are you in the States? And the reason was like family health issues and job transitions and like emotional stress. So then suddenly I'm discussing serious topics about my family because that's the genuine reason. I don't have a fake one offhand. I felt like because the details of my life were so public, they were part of all the churches we went to. That was a topic of conversation. So people would come up to me and ask, why this, why that? And I just felt like I had to go there and discuss emotional things, even though I knew nothing about them. So I feel like a lot of MKs get desensitized to just like, yeah, let's just discuss family trauma kind of thing. Yeah, that's not a relationship. It's just kind of, with most people, you wouldn't talk about things like that because you don't know them.
That's a really good, and I want to hear Michaela, and then we're gonna move on.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like maybe some people move fast through the stages to kind of feel out what kind of person they're gonna try to become friends with. Like, if based on their reaction, is this person worth actually getting to a genuine level like this? Or are they gonna react so poorly that I won't be able to trust them? Or, like just seeing what kind of a person they are based on, the kinds of things that you tell them. Could be one of the reasons.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you, Michaela, for sharing that.
Mhm.
So the first reason that I feel like we've already mentioned, I think Rosa kind of talked about this. That's kind of part of what I heard her saying. She said a lot of other really good stuff too, but is practice. We have had lots of experience making new friends, lots of churches, lots of people we visited, lots of all over the place where we know what we're doing. We know how this works. We know the questions we're going to get asked, and we have a choice. The second thing is, we know a lot about a lot, and we can engage on many different levels of conversation. There's nothing that, not always, but typically a lot of MKs are forced into listening to news programs and other kinds of things as they travel, and they read lots and lots of books typically, and they are often, because there's not a lot of people overseas to choose from, have a lot of friends who are a lot older. And so there's a lot more opportunity to develop a more well-rounded worldview perspective and develop a much broader interest in what's going on around and in the world. And a lot more MKs are willing to listen to the news than your average other person can typically be. And research is kind of a big deal, and it's fun. And so they like to do that. That helps you in relationship. Coincidentally, though, that can be something that is deeply hindering when you're in your home culture and you don't know a lot about what everyone else seems to care a lot about and know a lot about. And that's another lesson that we've talked about recently in the cultural stuff. But typically with other MKs, you have similar experiences and you're dynamic. And because of that, you're able to connect and relate on a lot of different issues. And the last one is there's that sense of urgency. We know we may be leaving soon. And I think that was the first thing. I think that's, someone said that. I thought someone said that. Anyway,
Me.
Yeah, Eva said that. That's right. You know you may be leaving soon, so we want to get deep quickly. Otherwise, we may never get the chance. Thank you. No, that was really good. All right, so here's a quiz that I want to quickly give you guys. Feel free to get out your pen and paper, and if you get any of these wrong, shame on you. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. It's not that kind of quiz.
If I get you wrong, I won't tell you.
Yeah. If you get me wrong, you won't tell me.
If you're gonna shame me.
I will not shame you in front of anyone else. Just in my, no, I'm
Alright.
kidding. All right.
I see how it
Okay, so the first question is, read the quote on the backdrop. And my question is, does this at all describe you? Is this the true or false is not really we're not testing your knowledge of anything other than yourself. Do you relate to this? I've always been afraid of losing people I love. Sometimes I wonder if there's anyone out there afraid of to lose me. Does that speak to any of you? Are you afraid of making friends and the pain of losing another friend when you leave? And if you're in this group, or if they leave, do your past experiences impact significantly your willingness to participate in relationships and your willingness to go deep? Are you on the brink or close to the brink of just saying, you know what, I'm done, I'm tired of it, my heart can't take any more of this? And if that's true of you, again, that's one of the reasons we're here, guys. That's literally, it's not just my job, it's my joy, because my job is my joy, but I'm here to talk with you about these things. If you need to talk, I'm here. And I want to talk with you. And I can say for everyone on my staff except JT, no, I'm kidding. Everyone on my staff also, that's why they're here. They're here to talk with you and listen. I'm kidding, JT, I'm kidding. Every one of us wants to know, wants you to know that we want to be invested in helping you process that, because I've absolutely felt that way. And I'm sure a lot of us, all of us have from time to time. The next question is, do you get stuck in the third stage, judgmental, because you're tired of risking emotional involvement and the hurt that it brings? Do you find that now most of your relationships have just slammed to a halt in level 3, and you've stopped being able to make friends where you can share how you feel and where you can just share all your private dreams and hopes? Have you had experiences like I was talking about, where you've been sharing about your emotional experiences and people have either made fun of you or misunderstood you or tried to correct you, and you've just said, it's not worth it. It hurts too much. I don't want to go here. Yeah, Eva, go ahead.
Well, I have to move.
No, you can just speak really loud.
Yeah, I speak loud enough at school. So I have a friend like that, and it's like we have moments where we like go into 4 and 5, but a lot of the time it's at 3, just because we don't like we're not always hanging out together, or we just don't talk as much. We just there's just certain moments where we actually connect, but it doesn't always, it's not always like that, it doesn't always feel connected. It feels like we're on and off kind of thing. It doesn't ever feel like a bad thing always. It just, that sometimes it does, but not always.
Thanks for sharing. I appreciate that. Thanks for being willing to move. I know it's obnoxious.
So irritating. I'm just kidding. It's not that bad.
The next true or false question I want you to evaluate, take your pulse here, is this true of you? I quickly let go of friends when I see a transition coming. I create problems so that leaving is easier. This can sometimes be a really good reflective question for you, because I know a lot of MKs, including myself, who do this without actually noticing it or thinking about it. This is what I call senior syndrome. I don't care how many of my seniors are like, we're not going to do that. We've heard you teach about this 4 times. Blah, 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 blah. We're going to be, yeah. And then you get to the last few months of whatever semester it is, and they're all subconsciously, pew! Not all of them. Some of them don't. But it's just something that typically happens when you see a transition coming, a big transition in particular. You can subconsciously just start creating problems. You can just go into this place where you know that if you stir things up, it makes leaving easier. And you also know, because and I don't know if this is the next lesson we're going to do or not, but you also know when I talk about transition, how good it is to build that raft. And if you don't build that raft, it's really, really ugly. Well, this is something you need to recognize is going against you in building that raft. Your raft is all about reconciliation and making peace before you leave. But this fights against that, because it is easier to leave if you make problems. It is easier to say goodbye if you're mad at the person or that person's mad at you. And I used to find that I would do this just with my own family before I'd go on a trip for 2 weeks to Jamaica or Thailand, back way long ago in that imaginary world where I used to travel. And I think that is something that is really healthy to recognize. But I've also recognized that I do that when I see other people's transitions coming. It's not just that people can sort of start creating problems when you know you're going to leave. It's any transition. When you know other people are going to leave, you can already start withdrawing and say, I don't want to be a part of this anymore. I had my some missionary friends, my cousin, they were here for a while. And when he saw the transition coming, when they were going back to go overseas, he just stopped coming to a lot of events. He was just done. And I called him out on it. And then he started coming back to those events. But then I found myself having a hard time like re-engaging after that, because I was like, well, he's just going to leave. And that's really, really hard. Relationships that are highly mobile, you have to be very intentional with. And you have to recognize these things so that you don't subconsciously just push people away that you really want to hold on to. The emotions that surround the transition are temporary. But those relationships are meant to last a lifetime. And we are fortunately in a day and age where we don't have to just say goodbye. There are lots of ways we can stay connected. And one of the gifts of COVID has shown us that, how we can stay connected with our hero Kieran, you know, and all the rest of you who are far away. Yeah, go ahead, make a comment.
Okay. You can't see me. Okay, I have to sit down. Okay. I guess as you're saying that, I can kind of think, like I'm thinking like that's kind of happening to me right now. A friend of mine is leaving in the summer, and I've like, I don't know if it's just because of that, like I know we're still gonna be like communicating stuff, but like it's been a little tricky. I've noticed myself kind of pulling away from just like even talking to him super a lot, just like because like they're leaving, you know, and it's like it's not going to be the same after they leave. It's just like why, like, because I probably never see them again. Well, I might, but it's like it's still, I can like kind of feel myself just like pulling away a little bit. So.
Thank you for sharing
Moving
that.
to Florida.
Wow, that's
He's
really
so
good.
mad.
Yeah. Yeah, I bet. It's really, really hard. That can be really hard. All right, let's go to the next slide. I refuse to feel pain. I don't say goodbye, and I become detached from people. And this is when you know, like, you are really in a rough place. This can be a very dangerous place. And if this is you, please, please, please be willing to talk with one of us leaders. We want to talk with you. We want to help you. We want to understand you. We want you to know you're not alone. But this is a bad place to get to. Unfortunately, this can be very characteristic of a lot of adult MKs who have gone through, remember that unresolved grief thing, you know? Before you reach adolescence, you have gone through more grief than most people go through in a lifetime. And a big part of that grief is revolving around transition and loss of relationship. And if you don't learn how to do this well, you will do it poorly. And you do not want to live your life detached. So many people who end up losing their faith started losing their faith when they became detached from other believers, from other people. And they stopped being able to receive that encouragement and that love and that life. We don't want you to be that person. We don't want you to get to that place. We want to help. Okay. Joy and pain are but two arteries of the one heart that pumps through those who don't numb themselves to really living. You need to know that when you stop feeling pain, you're going to also stop feeling joy. And so much of the time, we don't want to feel the pain, so we try and numb out. But the reality is, all of us want to still be able to feel joy. It's not worth it. You are called into this epic adventure with the Lord. And he is the God of all comfort. And knowing him in suffering is a sweet and powerful and beautiful thing. And knowing him in joy is also that way. And he designed us to be able to go through the whole gamut. And I guarantee you that the comfort you receive, you will be able to extend to others. Going through the pain and the hurt and not ignoring it or numbing it or withdrawing from it, but trying to understand it is a big part of the reason why I wanted to do this and be here and talking to you tonight. The hurt and the pain and the just horror of losing my friend Andreas to suicide is why I said I want to get involved with MKs. I don't want another MK to go out that way. I could have just numbed out and said, oh, forget it. But the comfort that I received during that time is the same comfort that I want to extend to every one of you who needs it. The experiences of loss that you've had are not great, but as you learn how to deal with them well, God positions you to be able to extend that same comfort to other people who are going through really hard things. And it's really annoying when someone is like, oh yeah, I know what it's like, man. And they don't, but it can be really, really helpful and comforting when someone says, I know what's going on. I know what it's like. And they actually do. It can help a really, really, really lonely person stop feeling so alone because they know someone else has gone through this and they've survived and they're actually thriving and they're on the other side of it. I went through, many of you have already heard my testimony a couple of times, and I'll try and remember to keep sharing it because not all of you have, but I've been through a lot of hard things. And that going through them at the time was not like, yay, but now I'm so grateful because I know what it's like to lose a lot of, like everything. I know what it's like to go through evacuations. I know what it's like to have a friend commit suicide. I know what it's like to go through some stuff. And at the time, I wasn't happy about it, but now I see that God has woven that into my life so that he can use me to help others. And God is going to weave your story. He's going to redeem so much of your story if you let him. But you got to invite him into that place. And that can be really hard to do. Don't do it. Don't feel like you have to do it alone. I'm all about the trauma healing. If this is you, be willing to get the help. Have the courage to take that step. That's a big part of why our group exists, because we know that you guys have a lot of real hard things that you deal with, a lot of pain. We're also here to help you find birds. No. Okay, the next slide. Maybe you feel like this, and maybe this is what I was talking about earlier. When you're in this place too long, this can really hurt your relationship with the Lord. God doesn't care how I feel. It's sinful to be unhappy and frustrated. God doesn't understand me. If I'm upset, it means I don't trust God. These are a lot of lies the enemy can try and throw at you to keep you down and to keep you stuck. It's really easy to feel that God doesn't care how you feel when you feel like you've been in suffering for a really long time and he's all powerful. He could yank you out at any time, right? And so it's easy to believe the lie that God doesn't care how you feel. But that's not true. He does care. I can empathize with that feeling, but I don't want to allow that lie to have any ground. It's sinful to be unhappy and frustrated. And that's another way. The enemy will try and beat you up on one side and then delight in beating you up on the other. So God doesn't care how I feel is a pretty hopeless, awful place. But then the enemy, when I try and feel like, because the best way through is through. You have to be honest with what you're actually experiencing. But then the enemy will try and keep you from sharing any of this stuff or even talking about it by telling you that it's wrong for you to be unhappy and frustrated. And if you think it's wrong to be unhappy and frustrated, I just encourage you right now to just jump into the Psalms and have a good time. Just let David tell you how crazy that reality is. And here's one, we'll leave this one up on the screen while I talk about, this. Jesus Christ is how God does understand you. He went through everything, was tempted in every single way. He came here because he wants you to know that he knows. And you can be upset and still choose to trust God. I don't have to like a lot of the things that I see. There's a lot of things that God sees that he doesn't like either. But trusting God is a choice, and it is the very best choice that I've ever made in my entire life, and it continues to be. I'm not saying it's easy, and I don't want you to lie about it, but I'm telling you that you can trust him. And being upset doesn't change that. There are a lot of people that I'm upset with that I still choose to trust. All right, I'm starting to go over time here. We're almost done. This is a great psalm. I encourage you to read it on your own if you haven't. Today is a gift. God wants you to have an abundant life. He came to make your joy complete. One of my favorite, that's right, John 15. Huh. I'm the vine, you are the branches. I've spoken these things to you that my joy may remain in you and that your joy may be made full. And he is speaking these words at the Last Supper when he already knows he's being betrayed and handed over. And this is his message for us. He wants us to have this joy. And that's one of JT's favorite verses. Not that one in particular, but one that's very similar to this one. John 16:33. He wants us to have peace. He wants us to have joy. The pain of loss is a part of life, and learning how to transition through it will make the next one easier. And that's what I really encourage you to do. I encourage you to learn how to transition through these things well. Life is a lifelong opportunity to learn this. People get stuck because they choose not to. Don't get stuck. And if you've been stuck, it's okay. Don't stay there. Don't stay there. Today can be a turning point. It may be a long road to getting completely out, but I believe in you and I believe in your ability to do it. And I believe in God's ability to take you there and to use us to help you. All praise to God, the Father of our Lord Jesus Christ. God is our merciful Father and the source of all comfort. He comforts us in all our troubles so that we can comfort others when they are troubled. We will be able to give them the same comfort God has given us. Your calling is spectacular, guys. The thief comes to steal, kill, and destroy, but he came that you would have abundant life, full life. I am committed to seeing you, all of you, walking in that abundance and fullness. I am not trying to gloss over the pain and the hurt. It's not a magic wand. We're not just going to be like, oh, and poof, it's all better. That's not how it works. But I'm committed to walking, for lack of a better analogy right now, I'm committed to going all the way to those gates of Mordor and throwing it all in there and back again. And you need those people who will say, you know what, I can't carry this junk inside of you, but I can carry you. And that's a hill I'll die on, taking my last steps, because I will not give up on you. We all get there together, man. We all get there together. Okay? Know that. Being a part of this group is a lot of fun, and there's a lot of joy and silliness and laughter, and it's awesome. But being a part of this group means that you have at least one person who has said to you tonight, I will not give up on you. God has said it he said it before you were even a glimmer in your father's eye. And he raised up a group of leaders tonight who are saying it again. We care about you, and that we are committed to you. And we know it's hard, but you are not alone. Let's pray, and then I'll turn this over to the Hangout gang. God, I just thank you so much that you care. God, I know that it's hard, and I know that I have my own fair share of struggles grieving well and transitioning well. And I want to be better at all this stuff. But God, I want to be authentic. I want to worship you in spirit and in truth. And when it's hard, it's okay. God, give grace to people tonight who need to take a step. give grace to people tonight who, like, they're in like the lowest of the low of all of this. They're broken and they're bruised. They've given up. They don't want to make more relationships. God, please send your spirit to bring life and joy and hope and comfort. We're not in this for quick fixes because we're eternal beings, but we do want to be made whole. And you are the one thing in the entire universe that we know can make us whole. So help us help each other and help us learn how to receive that life and that healing from you so that we can take up the purpose that you created us for, so that we can continue to advance your kingdom for your glory. And we love you, God. You created us for a relationship. I praise you for that. Help us to do it well. And we bind the enemy completely, any way that he would try and stand up against this. Get out. You have no business here. You are broken and you were defeated a long time ago. And God, we thank you for your spirit that is in everyone here tonight. Would you use your spirit to continue to bring life and healing? In Jesus' name, amen.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, is Kieran on? I know you were on.